In this video today, I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about drum keys. It seems like they're pretty obvious. It's a simple device. What could there be to say? Now, if you just want a thing that turns a tension rod or adjusts a stand, anything that's intended to be a drum key will sort of work. But the thing is, if you want one that's going to last you a long time and function the best that it can, there are a couple of little things you actually could know about drum keys. So of course, every drum key sort of has to have a wing or some way to apply torque, and then of course it has to have the square sort of bit shape on the bottom so that it can grab the tension rod. Beyond that, the other features are sort of optional, but if we just look at a few, these are the 4 I currently own. I've owned like 6 or 7 previous to this, and they haven't lasted, so there is a way to have a bad drum key. Now, basically these all have a similar design except for this Tama one, which incorporates a couple of hex wrenches. It's kind of cool because it gives you a lot of torque on this long hex wrench on the end here, and it fits into a little pocket on the pedal, so it's practical in that regard. But you know, if you get a really long one, it can give you a ton of torque. However, most people don't need a ton of torque. It's kind of extra, and if you're trying to carry this around in your pocket or whatever, like I found that this one in my pocket was too big. It was really irritating to have to carry around with this long hex wrench on the end. Another factor to consider is that like a few companies like maybe Pearl and Mapex, their drum keys are not the same on both sides. Like instead of being symmetrical like this one, they are sort of very adapted for turning clockwise, but then it doesn't really feel very good to turn them counterclockwise. So for tightening, that's great. For loosening, it ends up not being so great, which is kind of weird. So I like the fact that all these are at least the same on both sides, so whether I'm tightening or loosening, it's the same thing. Now, if we look at sort of the other aspect, aside from the torque application feature, it's the only other thing is like the actual square insert itself. So you can see these keys, well hopefully you can see it, they're all machined pretty well in that it's a very tight square inside of a circular, tube. On the other hand, this one is actually not very good. If you look at it carefully, you can see that it's rounded. So there are little pockets in the corners for, the tension rod end to fit into, but the inside of the hole itself is not perfectly squared off, which just means that this was machined poorly. Now this is the second one of these that I've owned because I have 2 Tama pedals, and the first one actually completely stripped out. So the hex wrench ends work, but the drum key portion, completely worthless. I've also owned another one, kind of looked like this one, pretty simple in design, but the inside of it was actually, there were different pieces welded in to a tube, like a round tube, to make the square profile. And once one of those pieces kind of broke the weld and popped out after a while, it was useless too. So it should be like one solid piece from which the square profile emerges. Then, on the other hand, the other consideration is like you got to carry it around with you. So these are fine drum keys, but I've actually lost this one a few times. I found it again, amazingly, but I've lost a few other ones like this, and there's just no way to attach it to anything. So without a hole for a keychain or a lanyard or something, you're going to lose it. So this one has a nice hole, but like I said, it's really too big to go in my pocket. I tried it before and I ended up taking off my keys. Didn't like it. This one I just bought because I needed one that wasn't huge, but that had the hole in it to attach to my keychain. And so of course I don't envision ever losing this one unless I lose my keys, which would be great. Like these, I guess I could drill a hole in just the same as that, but it's nice that it just came with it and I didn't have to deal with it. Now there are fancier drum keys than this, like DW. The ones I had previous to this one were actually had like a quick release that you just push in, and it would pop off of your keychain and then you could pop it back on. And I lost 2 of them. They're like $10, so that's expensive for, this was a $2 drum key. This one comes with the pedal. This one came with a snare drum that I bought. No idea where this one came from. But they should be free or cheap. So $10 for drum key is a lot for then the keychain mechanism to pop off and break. So that's not very nice. So basically, simpler is better. Now there are a few keychains compatible drum keys out there where the hole is like right at the top in the middle, and that's okay too. I prefer it out here because then it sort of, you can get your keys out of the way and have this mostly unimpeded by them. When it's in the middle, it's a little bit more of a problem in the palm of your hand. But anyway, so to recap, good, symmetrical, comfortable, torquing wing, tightly machined square hole in the thing, nothing welded in and not rounded for sure, and then a way to not lose it. And basically, that's your premier drum key feature list. After that, there's hundreds of drum keys out there. A bunch of them are like $1 to $2, so it's an easy thing to get a hold of. You should have one at all times as a drummer, and if you get the right one, it should last you a really long time. So thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later.